Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Pommyinoz. If you're new to the channel, please be sure to smash the like button, hit the notification bell, and please subscribe. It really helps the channel out and it helps me motivated to do more videos. We're right near 100 at the moment. We're creeping up on it, so it'd be great to get that before the season starts and we can get into some cracking content I've got planned for you. So today what we're going to do is, with the success of the Hawthorn video and the Bolton video, let's pick on Chris Scott at Geelong. He began his reign in 2011 against St Kilda and he just snagged a win last minute thanks to a Darren Milburn bit of spectacular magic. But let's have a look at that team that played and see what they're up to now and how they went on. Corey Enright, he finished the game with 31 touches versus the Saints that day and he played 6 more years for the Cats. He finished up on 332 games for Geelong, to cement really the talented defender in one of the best to wear the Geelong in the recent era. An absolute phenomenal player who was good in the air, good distribution, he was a great servant for the Cats and one hell of a footballer. Matty Scarlett, father and son pick by way of John Scarlett, he was a metaphorical brick in the wall for Geelong. He would play another season under Scott to finish up on 284 games, one of the best fullbacks to play the game, and he's in probably everyone's team of the last decade. A phenomenal footballer, was literally one of the toughest to beat one-on-one. Jimmy Bartel. This guy is one of the most versatile players to play the game, and it's hard as a rival fan of a Carlton fan like myself to not like Jimmy Bartel. He could play anywhere. He could play down back, in the midfield, forward line, and he was literally a key part to winning their flag in 2011. He would retire at the end of 2016, going into a media career, and he played a whopping 305 games for the Cats and also had a Brownlow along that route. James Kelly, the halfback who could also play in the midfield, he was a staple for Geelong. He left the club at the end of 2015 to help out them drug cheats down at Essendon, where he was more than serviceable for them with a very young list. He brought the curtain down at the end of 2017 and played 313 games of football across both football clubs. He was a great servant for both of their clubs and a great mentor for a lot of the young list who are now plying their trade at Essendon. Steve Johnson. Stevie J. You know, one of my favourite players to watch. You know, if it wasn't him jostling and having a bit of a banter with the opposition backman, or if it was him just doing the unthinkable by snapping a goal last minute, he was a wonderful player. He snagged goals and terrorised backlines for the best part of a decade. And until 2015, he decided to shift to GWS and their young list. It was a problem for backlines, teaching their forward line the tricks of the trade before going on to be coach at Sydney. His brand of football is long since missed. Not many forwards can do what he did, and at the end of 2017 he brought the curtain down on an illustrious career, playing 293 games across both clubs and snagging 516 goals. Harry Taylor. Seems to be like something in the water at Geelong. These guys just seem to play forever. Harry Taylor was a reliable backman down there and a staple of the Geelong side, and he still is today. If it's him down the back, you know, bustling, jostling, winning one-on-one contests, it's also the sight of him just popping up at the forward pocket with 10 minutes to go, kicking an ever-important goal to get the Cats over when you think you've beaten them. He is in his staggering 13th year at the Cattery, currently on 262 games for the club, and he's going strong. Can he finish off the season with another flag? This season will tell us, but I don't think he's got long left in the clock. But definitely this year, one last charge for Harry. Joel Corey. He was evasive, old Joel, and he was an integral part of the Cats side in 2007 that went on to win the flag, and even in 2011 he was still there. He played 3 more seasons under Chris Scott, playing in nearly every game he was eligible for, and he retired with 276 games under his belt with 79 goals. Not a bad return for Joel, and he's kind of the often forgotten about player in this 2011 side. Matthew Stokes, the tricky forward who had the ability to break a game open, and he was tenacious in the tackle. Could apply intense amounts of pressure in the forward line when it wasn't really a known thing as it is now. Could play across the mid as well and pinch hit. He finished up at Geelong at the end of 2015. Like Kelly, went on to help the Essendon drug cheat saga and top up their players. Didn't quite become the superhero that drug program announced him, but he was ever so serviceable. He stayed there for a year and then retired and finished with 200 games and 209 goals for his return. Not a bad effort for old Matty. David Wyszynski. Now this speedster, he could break open a game. He was like Basher Hooley before we even knew about Basher Hooley. He took on the gaps in between half-back and he could set up the attack. He was an integral part of the transition at the Cats in 2011 and he retired at the end of 2012 having played 203 games for the Cats. Was a wonderful servant for the club, was electric by foot, was very good with the ball in hand and could take the game on. He was a real metres gain type footballer, solid servant of the Cats. Andrew Mackie. Don't you just love a defender who can pin hitting the forward? We all love it. Levi Casbolt has become a staple of Carlton, and Mackie was probably the Casbolt of Geelong. He was a walk-up start for them. He was always in the team sheet for another 6 years at the Cats under Chris Scott, and he retired with a staggering 280 games under his belt. Was a phenomenal servant, was good in the air, was strong on one-on-one, and he had a very good ability to work up and down the ground. Good footballer, and was a solid player for this 2011 Cats side. Travis Varco, the small forward who had the eye for the brilliant in 2011. He was a trickster. He could swing left, swing right. He could pull people inside out and snag from anywhere. His injury in 2012 kind of did curtail that, and he redeveloped his game. He found his way to Collingwood in 2015, where he is displaying them tenacious foot skills and his eye for the brilliant. He's totally redefined his role though and drops a bit more deeper now and looks to bring players in. But in 2011, he was like the go-to man and could change a game on his own. Phenomenal player and still going strong at Collingwood, I might add. Mitch Duncan. He's another one who's going strong. It's hard to believe that 2011 was so long ago, but a lot of the players are still there at the Cats, and it's a credit to their system that they can still play for so long. Mitch is one of them players who's like a fine wine. He's got better as the years have gone on, and last year was probably a standout year for him. Now with Kelly leaving to the Eagles, it seems to be last chance saloon for a lot of these Cats players, and a lot will rely on Mitch Duncan's ability to win the ball and really help danger out. He's a phenomenal footballer, excellent deliverer by foot, and he's gone from strength to strength. Josh Hunt. He was a no-nonsense backman. He had a booming left peg and was tough to the ball. Used it very well and was a key cog in the transitional football that Chris Scott likes to play for over a decade at the Cats, and he left at the end of 2013 to go to New Boys GWS. He did really well at GWS and was really kind of like helped develop that young team, and we know how good GWS are now. And at the conclusion of the 2014 season, he brought his curtain down on his career with over 212 games played across both clubs. Taylor Hunt. He never really quite got going, Taylor, despite showing quite a lot of promise at the start of his career. The rebounding defender showed glimpses, but he was delisted at the end of the 2014 season and was picked up by Richmond. Things didn't go quite to plan at Richmond. He was in and out of the side and never really got going. There were some good performances in the VFL though, and he was ultimately finally delisted by Richmond in 2017. He played 105 games for both clubs respectively, and currently is out of contract and presumed retired. Brad Ottens, the Herculean ruckman. He does look like, the Hercules from the 1990 series. He was signed by them because they needed a forward target and a ruckman from Richmond, and he was in the twilight of his career when Chris Scott took over at this club. He played 20 games that year though, he was ever present in it, and he brought the curtain down at the end of that year, finishing with 245 games across both clubs. He was a wonderful tapman, he was a great target up forward, but believe it or not, some people have picked this guy as the ruckman in the team of the decade. I didn't. Tom Lonergan. Tom was the definition of persistence. He had a horrific injury at the start of his career, which really did curtail him, but like his football career, he persevered and faced it with bravery and that Herculean type attitude. He was a staple for the Geelong side, and his footy career was just glittered with wonderful ball use. He was really tough, real fair player, and real honest bloke. 209 games for the Cats before he retired, and he's currently actively raising organ donation. A complete champion of a footballer and a champion of the bloke with what he does off the field. Darren Milburn. He was the super sub in this game, and he won the game with a last-minute moment of brilliance against St Kilda. And it wasn't new to the Cats fans. This guy had been doing it for a long time. He was at the end of his career at this stage at Chris Scott, but he did play 14 games for them, and then he retired at the end of that season. He played a staggering 292 games and was a staple for the Cats for over a decade. was a phenomenal footballer, was the consummate professional, and that St Kilda highlight was just one of many for Geelong's Darren Milburn. Cam Mooney, the tenacious forward, was at the end of his career also at this stage. Like a lot of them were, it was a very transitional squad. But he helped develop the youngsters at the club. They had a very good young list with Tom Hawkins and a lesser-known Dan Menzel, and really helped develop them. He finished his career at the end of that year, despite only playing 8 games, and finished with 221 games for 297 goals. Currently an analyst at Fox Footy and the subject of a few memes, but what a footballer he was. Solid footballer, good and honest as the day is long. Cam Guthrie, the industrious midfielder, who kind of looks like he lives under a bridge at the moment, but at this stage he'd get ID'd for a coke. I tell you what, he's been a staple though ever since. It was very early in his career at this stage, but he's become a dashing and marauding midfielder who is in his peak years now. He was a fresh draftee in 2011 and only managed 2 games, but he's gone on to play a staggering 162 games for the Cats and amassing 52 goals. Another one who you will be looking at as an important role player for Geelong if they are going to break this 9-year flag duck. Danny Menzel, one of my favourites. It makes me happy to hear a Menzel name, partly because I'm still questioning how the hell the people involved in that Carlton trade to Adelaide for his brother Troy aren't doing hard time for robbery. That is up there with Ned Kelly and the London bank robbers. That is outrageous. But that being said, Danny Menzel was a cracking footballer. He had all the talent in the world. He was a game changer. But like his brother, he seemed to be made of glass. Despite being at the club for over 9 years, he only managed 73 games, and 3 years of them he had 0 games to his name. But when he was on the park, there was no getting away from how talented he was. He has the ability to kick goals and be an absolute nightmare for any backline. He managed just 73 games for Geelong before Geelong parted way in 2018. He added 7 to his resume for Sydney. But in the end, 80 games for 143 goals is a great return, but not when you add how long his career has been. Real case of what if for Danny. Tom Hawkins, old farmer Tom. Tell you what, he was only a baby at this stage of his career, but he's still going up strong. An absolute beast up forward and probably one of the best forwards in the comp. He's up there. He's definitely top 3. He hasn't dipped below 50 goals since 2015 and he's been staggering. In 2011 he kicked 27 goals and started to show the promise, but currently he is smacking them in and he's unadulterated the leading goal kicker and the biggest threat Geelong have. They find the ball well to him, he's very mobile and literally he's the prototype of what all the forwards are. Tall, strong and very quick, causes problems and you're going to see a lot more of them blue-eyed smiles from him I think this year. Finally, Joel Selwood. Love him or hate him. Ducker, non-ducker. There is no getting away from this kid is class. He was a staple of Geelong at 2011 and he still is a staple in 2020. He is a phenomenal footballer. Can he lead them to a flag this time? We just don't know. But he deserves it. He deserves to captain a flag for them and bring his career down on a high. I reckon if he wins it this year, he'll retire. He's going to hit over 300 games this year, which is a phenomenal achievement for Joe. He just seems to be ever present, and he's been a rock for this football club. Solid footballer, and he was a wonderful footballer in 2011. He still is in 2020. That's the Cats team that played against St Kilda. Who was your favourite? Who do you miss, Geelong fans? I'd love to know. And who's your favourite who's still going? You've got quite a lot of these guys still turning out for you guys every week. And that is a phenomenal, phenomenal credit to your fitness and recruitment department. I've been Dan. As always, thank you for watching. Pom out.